I'm particularly interested in the social commentary. Are there texts which are commentaries on society, particularly caste? Do these, are any of these writers writing about the nature of society, jati, relationship to these kinds of, conflict with Hinduism at all?
Like Samaya Sara does not write about the social problematic of caste and other things. It discusses, it analyzes only the metaphysical categories, Jiva and Ajiva. It is a book on that. It only says that let us not get messed up with the divisions, like internal divisions of the school, but come out of it by understanding what has been taught by the Tirthankaras. This is what this text says. Other texts I have not come across anywhere. Like this comes in like Buddhist tradition, there is a reference to the caste. But Jaina tradition, I do not know. Is there any?
In Uttarakhand Sutra, there is a reference of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Kamuna.
Oh, that and all is there. But he's
conflict.
Kamuna, Kamuna, Vai, Kamuna, Vai, Kattiyo. Maniko, Kamuna, Vai, Kamuna, Vai, Suddhu. This is mentioned.
Oh, that type of thing is there here also. In what is that? In Pahuda, that book, he talks about the caste dynamism in the society. But he says that the realization is not for any particular caste or anything like that. It is whoever practices all these things can get, whether he is a Brahmin or not a Brahmin. This comes in the writing of Kunda Kunda also. But the social dynamics of putting somebody below of all that you don't find, as you find traces of it in other literature.
Hi. You kept referring to a South Indian tradition throughout your talk. Now, what do you have in mind?
No. See, this is a very important question you are asking. I don't know, like I may refer to it, but you can see this Shramanic tradition, this is a very important thing, Sundar. See, Shramanic tradition becomes so important in the south, and the acharyas were all from the north. See, Buddha and Mahavira were the North Indian people. They had so much of their preaching activity, all that writings in south, especially Kanchipuram was the center of the, Jina Kanchi you have today also. Jina Kanchi, you have a Kanchipuram, there is a Jina Kanchi. Yeah, and all these places, is in Orissa, in Bengal, in Andhra, in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, so much of Jaina activities were going on all through. And the very important acharyas have come from this place. One of the best acharya in the whole Jaina tradition is Kunda Kunda. Whether he is known or not known, if you read him, you will really find the taste, the relish of the philosophical, analysis. How beautifully he tries to show. And everywhere what he does, I could not finish my paper. For each tenet that he wants to propose, he gives an example. See, this does not happen with others. This happens in Buddha, because Buddha always has some example to give for something he wants to speak. And Kunda Kunda does that. You don't find this in canonical literature in Jainism. You find here only in Kunda Kunda. And Kunda Kunda was from South India. He was from, there is a Kunda Kunda Pura now in North Arcot district near Kanchipuram. He had his, pardon? Yeah. 1 minute. That lot of writing and all that also I know. The Karnataka claims Kunda Kunda to be there here, and that also I have written here. So anyway, Karnataka is also South India, no? She is asking about South India. So, but there is no doubt about Kunda Kundas coming from that part of the country, because there are manuscripts and there are archaeological evidence. Another thing I wanted to tell you about that, in Kunda Kunda, the original Telugu language was the language of that place, that Kunda Kundapura, and how in his writings there are reference to that type of that from Prakrit you can find such words were used which become Telugu later on. Anyway, Kannada and Telugu do not have much of difference. Sorry, the distance is not very large. So you can always see this language there, that language here. We cannot conclusively say where from he came, but like by and large the belief is that he was from Tamil Nadu.
Meera.
And one thing I wanted to say, that how North Indian religious masters preached so well and did so well in the south. They had their successors in the south, whereas South Indian like Shankara Ramanuja, all these preceptors had such a lot to do in the North India. Like many cities, the whole city was endowed to Ramanuja later on, isn't it? Like there are many such writings, even the travelogue that he writes about later Ramanuja period, post Ramanuja period, it is written. It shows how Ramanuja became so eminent in the North India. Anyway.
So, with the due respect to your respect to Kundakundacharya, I want to clear it. Kundakundacharya's birthplace is Konakondala, which was earlier in the greater Karnataka, near Guntakal.
No, that I agree. That I don't disagree, but neither of us kept company with Kunda, so we do not know. So, that's same archaeological evidence, they say like many people have already written books about Kunda.
This belongs to the previous seminar that we finished with Pramila Thapa. So now we'll
Okay, let's
move
go
on.
on to your question.
The references to Kunda and other, maybe in philosophical texts is missing, but do you have other references from texts? Because I know that Tamil literary traditions have a rich source of interaction.
Very good.
Are there any mentions of
wonderful
Kunda in
question.
Tamil literature?
Very good.
Sangam literature or something?
Sangam literature, no, I do not know.
Tamil
But
literature.
1 minute. But there is one commentary on Kunda's Samayasara in Tamil. And
Even in Kannada,
the Kannada language came much after Tamil came. You see, Kannada as a language is much later than Tamil language. Like, let us not bother. See, I am neither a Kannadiga nor a Tamilian. So I have no problem in that. The Sundar might tell better than I do. So, but as far as Kunda Samayasara is concerned, there is a very old commentary in Tamil. I have the reference to that. That is there.
It's concerning Syadvada. It is clear that Kunda belongs to the Digambara tradition. We just discussed the question of his date. We know that Pujapada also belongs to the Digambara tradition. Pujapada wrote a commentary to Tattvartha Sutra.
Yes.
Kunda has written about Syadvada, clear evidence. All the Saptabhangi are mentioned. Pujapada belongs to the Digambara tradition. Not only does not take the opportunity to bring in Syadvada, Tattvartha Sutra does not mention Syadvada.
Yes.
It only mentions Nayavada.
Yeah.
Arpita Anarpita Siddhehe is interpreted as Syadvada. Depending on what you emphasize, becomes the perspective from which you make your predicate. Why does Pujapada not clinch the opportunity to elevate the status of the Digambara tradition when in the tradition there is already the Saptabhangi? He gives no clue about it. So what implication does this have about the dates? Pujapada, there's hardly any doubt about 6th century.
Yeah.
Or
5th century.
sixth
6th century. Okay.
Yeah. But Kunda, and if it's the same tradition, certainly they must have been in contact and he would have known the Digambara tradition.
See,
and this is a problem
yeah.
that has been bugging me for some time.
No, I also was caught by that particular problem. But what I think about this particular problem is, many people, many writers, the late, post Kunda period, even Tattvartha Sutra period, post Tattvartha Sutra period, have avoided the problematic of Syadvada and Anekantavada. Quite in a few texts.
They have Nayavada.
They have Nayavada.
Yeah, and
Saptabhangi Nayavada.
And the Sutra Arpita Anarpita.
Yes, that is there.
Clear. Yeah.
But what I think,
No, but he says, for example, you can say the person as a father is more important than the person else.
Exactly, exactly. No, one thing that I want to say, morning we are asking so many questions to Professor Subhachandra, making a lot of caricature about this ahimsa. The main problem of Saptabhangi and Syadvada has like a relevance to the concept of ahimsa, which is spoken of as the mood concept, the central concept of Jainism. And what does a Muni like? How he is? What is his being? What is his ontological status? It is only ahimsa is his ontological status. This is the only simple answer. How can we understand ahimsa? We can understand ahimsa only from Saptabhangi Naya. And Saptabhangi Naya can be understood only when Syadvada and Anekantavada is understood. See, let me tell you that this is how the whole tradition of Jaina teaching has been done in the tradition. Saptabhangi Naya, Syadvada, Anekantavada are the end. And it is for whom? Not for the ordinary people. It is from the perspective of a Kevalin and Sruta Kevalin. It is only a sannyasin who has relevance to this ahimsa. He is the practitioner of ahimsa, not a practitioner. He is the ahimsa himself, embodiment of ahimsa. And how he will practice, in that lies the whole basic dharma of Jainism. That is how I think, and therefore many people have avoided it, and many people have dealt with it in their own way. There are a lot of contradictions also, and what he was telling and Sundar was telling, both the types of traditions you find in the commentaries, because many people write commentaries without very much going into it, and they are the scholars, but they are not realized souls. That also you can find in Jainism very clearly you can find. Like I would say that Samyasara commentary is just a scholarly commentary, whereas Samyasara is not it is a realized outpouring of the heart of the Kevalin. That is Kunda Kunda.
Yeah, from one perspective, Samayasara, from another perspective, Pravachanasara.
Yes.
Dravya Guna Pariyaya.
Exactly. Pravachanasara also, and Panchastikayasara also. And Pravachanasara is one of the very, very eminent seminal texts in Jaina philosophy. But one thing is the type of philosophy he does. It can reach to anybody, a scholar as well as a lay person. Whereas Tattvartha Sutra is not like that. It requires somebody being in the tradition to understand Tattvartha Sutra, whereas Kunda can be understood by anybody. That is his greatness.
Thank you very much, Gadavaresha, for the stimulating talk.